Welcome to my potager. Hi everybody, I'm Julia. I garden here in Vermont and I'm going to give you a tour of my potager on this June morning. It's early in the morning here. Rain is imminent, but I'm hoping it holds off for just a little bit so I can give you this tour. If you're new here, welcome. My potager is my kitchen garden. It is a mix of fruits and veggies and herbs and flowers for cutting and for pollinators. Let's get started. This is the south end of my potager here, and here I built some trellises with some branches and some twine, and I'm growing two different varieties of shelling peas. There's a variety on each side. The ones on the left there have outgrown the string, so I'm gonna have to tie some new string up for them. But they're both flowering and producing peas. At the base of the peas, I have some sweet alyssum. I've alternated with white and purple, and it is looking beautiful. I love it. I also have Swiss chard on both the ends of my peas here. I have different varieties of the rainbow Swiss chard, so they're different colors. Moving along this way, this is my potato bed. I did film when I planted these, so I will put that here. They're doing great. You can see a lot of the leaves coming up. It is just about time for me to hill them up again, especially this row in the front. I think I'll put another layer of hay on there where the stems are exposed. That's how I'm hilling it up this year, just with hay. I'm trying this Ruth Stout method. So far, it seems to be working. We'll see what my harvest is at the end of the year. And I have several varieties of potatoes in this bed. I have Adirondack Red, Adirondack Blue, a Satina variety, which I think is like a gold yellow variety, Yukon Gem, which is similar to Yukon Gold, and a Purple Viking, which I believe is purple on the outside, like a purple skin with white on the inside. So I'm excited about that. We grew both the Adirondack Red and Blue last year and loved them and wanted more. So hopefully we'll get more of those this year. Here I have my snapdragons. They looked pretty sad earlier this year. I will put in some footage here of what they looked like. They were hit by, we just had some late, like really cold temperatures. It was really sporadic, and then we had a lot of heat. It was a crazy spring. But they're looking so great now. A lot of them are bushing up. I did pinch about half, maybe a little more than half of them, and we're starting to see some blooms. Moving along here, I have some Rudbeckia over here. I had to replace one that didn't make it, and so that's that really small one. It was still in a plug tray, and so it's trying to bloom, but it's really tiny. Hopefully it'll grow a bit there, and hopefully the other ones will bloom soon. I did stick some feverfew back in the corner there. It's pretty small right now. It may or may not bloom this year, we'll see. And then I have my Lisianthus. Now they didn't all make it, but most of them have, and they're growing and they look great, and some of them at the end are even starting to bud up, so that's very exciting. Can you see those buds there? This is the First Love variety. I believe it's the first variety that germinated for me as well, so it's just ahead of everybody else. Going down the row here, I have Canterbury Bells. Now those ones might be more of a biennial, where they might actually not bloom this year, so we'll see. I put them in there. They have grown and they look beautiful just as plants. They look healthy, so we'll see what happens there. But beyond that, I have Strawflower and then Scabiosa, and both of those are just, a lot of them are budding up and some of them are just starting to pop. This particular Scabiosa or pincushion flower is actually a star flower, and it is beautiful. I actually grow it for the seed heads, but I'm so happy to see it. And this one is pretty dark. It's probably a black night Scabiosa. Gorgeous. And on the other side here, I have my onions. This is mostly onions. And then as we go down, I have some shallots and some leeks as well. I have not been as on top of the weeds this last month because I have just been trying really hard to get everything planted. Still not 100% there. You will see there's some areas that need some work. They really need to be cleaned up before they can be planted in, so hopefully the next week or two I'll get them in. It's definitely later than I would like to get most of my crops in. We are at the end of June right now. Mid-June I would love to have them all in, and definitely by July, and some of them might be later, but I've been working really hard to try to get in as much as I can. On this end of the bed here, I do have violets. There's quite a few weeds in this area. Again, I need to work on. But here we have some Sweet William Dianthus. It's that pop of pink in there. And there, this had bloomed, I think it's on its second or third day. I have an Iceland poppy blooming, and they're just so delicate and gorgeous. And I think I have some footage of it, or at least a picture I took earlier, so I'll insert that here so you can see it in its full beauty. In this bed here, I have the violets again on the edge, and then this is where I planted my root veggies. And I have mostly carrots in here, but there's some rutabaga on the end and then some beets in front of that. The germination was a little bit spotty, so I did direct sow a few more a couple days ago, I believe. So the rain will be good for that. I also planted nasturtium along the edge, so some of those are starting to come up. I love the little baby nasturtium leaves. The area behind me is just weeds for the most part. I think there's a volunteer sunflower right there that I'm just gonna leave, but I haven't gotten to this section yet. It's on my to-do list, haven't gotten there yet, and then hopefully it'll be planted up. This corner back here, there's a snake living under the landscape fabric back there, so that's why I haven't touched it, because I just have agreements with snakes that we just leave each other alone. So I might get my husband to join me when I need to tackle that area, or I might even just not plant up that very corner. We'll see how it goes. I do have some volunteer blue plurum though. I grew blue plurum in this area as a cut flower, kind of mostly for the foliage. It's pretty, so I'm leaving that for right now. I might actually cut some. It got a lot taller than it did last year actually. It's very happy. There's also some growing here. Let me scan you right here. I've got this here is bachelor's buttons. I haven't deadheaded it or anything, but they just keep blooming. They're so pretty. Pollinators like them, as do the goldfinches really like them. I see goldfinches over here a lot, so that's exciting. And then the other side here is my garlic. I've come around to the other side of the garlic here so I can give you a good view of the scapes. So this hardneck garlic has the scapes growing and they're ready to be cut. And if it's not raining when I finish this video, I might do that. But that's what the scapes look like on the plant. I will come in and cut them just off right here. And they're great as like a garnish and things. I can put them in scrambled eggs. They're really good. I love to make a garlic scape butter, and garlic scape pesto is also really good. The smaller variety down here are soft neck, and those don't give scapes. And now you can see some of the leaves here are yellowing and browning, and that's fine. We're a couple weeks out from harvest, generally. I think maybe a month at most, a couple weeks to a month. And so I will be looking for the edges of some of the leaves to die back, and the leaves themselves to die back. That's what creates that skin that protects the head of garlic. So that's actually what I'll be looking for to tell when they're ready to harvest. I've backed up a little bit to get a better view over here. My garlic was just over to the right there. And this is a volunteer sunflower, which is amazing because I am late in getting a lot of my sunflowers in. I'll show you where I want a lot of those to go. And so I'm worried about the harvest of those, but it'll be okay. I don't do this commercially, so. In this area here, I put in some cosmos, and then I also direct sowed some teddy bear sunflowers along the edge here. So I kind of alternated those. Beyond the sunflower, this is my tomato bed this year. So there's a bunch of different varieties of tomatoes that I'm not going to go into detail on today. The other end has mostly paste. This end is a row of slicers and cherries. I actually didn't have enough tomatoes for my space. I did start enough, but I had some growing problems early in the year. I ended up sticking some peppers because I actually didn't have space for them in my pepper bed. These peppers, I believe, are a variety called Sparkle, which should produce purple fruits, so that's exciting. I also put basil at the base of the tomatoes. This is going to be, I think, the second or third year I've done this, and I love it every single time. I have a different variety on each row. So this is the sweet Genovese basil, then we have a amethyst basil, a large leaf basil, a dark opal, I don't know if you can see all the way over there, but then all the way at the end is a Greek dwarf basil, which is one of my absolute favorites. It has smaller leaves and creates kind of like a little tiny bush. It's so cute. I originally wanted that mini bell in a pot, and so I was indecisive, but I really should get it in the ground because it's looking really sad. But the rest of them look okay. They look much better than when I planted them, actually. I'm gonna go back this way now. I have beds around my quince tree. That's my quince tree there. It's a mess around the base. I thought I was going to get some fruits, but I'm not seeing any now. I don't know if that late hard frost did end up killing off the fruits or if something else is going on. The tree itself looks healthy though, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But I did just finish planting up these beds here. The one in front of us here, I left some calendula and some dill. And then I planted, there's kale in the corners, basil in the front, and then around the outside, there's a mix of black beans with some dill and marigolds interspersed. And in the middle is acorn squash. Most of that is direct seeded, and this has been done within the last week. So hopefully in the next week, we'll start to see some growth, at least on the beans and stuff. Those usually germinate pretty fast. Along the edge here, I do have some zinnias on this side and some cosmos on the other side. I thought that could be fun. Then in these other two beds that you see up here, I did a similar thing. So they all have basils in the front. And these are like specialty basils, I think is what I'd call them. The one we're looking at now has blue spice basil, which I mainly just use for cut flowers. It smells amazing. The other side there has lemon and lime. They're two different varieties of basil, which are also great for cutting. They can be eaten as well. You can make a tea out of them. They're really unique. And then in this bed I showed you over here already, this is a Thai basil. So that's great for making Thai dishes, and my kids really like that one. Back to these two, they both have jade green bush beans around the edges, and then I interspersed some chamomile and calendula in between, and they all have kale in the corners. This one has a scarlet or purple kale. The kales do all look a little bit sad. I waited a while to get them in the ground. They really need to get in there, so hopefully they'll perk up soon. And then for the middle section, I put blue Hubbard squash and orangetti spaghetti squash in here. And I think it's a smaller version of the blue Hubbard squash. And then in that bed over there, I put just original spaghetti squash, because that I think is the squash we eat the most of. This bed here needs some work. You can kind of see it. I started and didn't get very far. This is my edible flower bed. I do need to dig out the edges because it's kind of been shrunk. The grass has definitely encroached, so I need to dig out the edges. It's kind of a mess. I'm fine with it being kind of messy and having a lot of different abundant flowers, but right now a lot of it's grass, which is not the intention. There is like a bachelor's button growing in there. There's some different pansies. These are bee balm, which are beautiful, but they're already getting powdery mildew. About a week ago now, we had, I think, 5 days in a row of rain, where we got 3.5 inches over like 4 or 5 days. It was crazy. And then there's some more pansies and violets in here. But I need to clean this bed up, and then I will be direct sowing as well as planting some more edible flowers in here. This is new within the past week as well. I mean, I've had this up in years past, but it was kind of falling apart and the grass had all grown up in the bed. So I had taken the branches down, and I went through and I actually dug out the bed again and put some more soil down on there and then reset up the branches. I sowed a black runner bean, and those can be used for I would shell them and cook them. And then they also have beautiful flowers. And then I did intersperse some cucumber seeds in there as well to try climbing with those. So we'll see how that works. I did put some flowers at the end. There's a zinnia here and a cosmos there. The cosmos in particular, and I think the zinnia as well, are kind of mystery varieties that my toddler had taken the tags out of. So I'm sure it'll be beautiful no matter what it is. I do have some hay there that I think I'm going to use to hill up the potatoes some more. And on the inside, I did try sowing some chickweed, so I'm hoping that takes. Usually it's already, grown and bloomed this time of year, but, you never know. It's worth a try. It hasn't been that long since they were sowed, but look, we've got a little bit of germination there. That is exciting. I'm just going to briefly touch on the herbs here. I haven't really addressed these beds at all. There's a lot of weeds and a mess in here. I did have parsley, which I'm just letting go to seed. I'm sure the pollinators will appreciate that. My thyme is flowering, and I'll just shear it back and it'll grow fresh. The sage is also just about done there. And we have some oregano over here. Yeah, and then a whole lot of weeds, so I'll give it attention at some point. And the intention is for this to be my culinary herb bed. It's just not altogether there yet, but we'll get there eventually. This is my herb circle. My intention here is to do a circle of herbs that are good medicinally, and I also have another medicinal herb bed back there. They're still a work in progress. There's a lot of weeds in this one actually. But this is my St. John's wort. This is the first year it's blooming. It grew last year, but just, you know, at the base, just the leaves. So that's really exciting. The bees seem to really enjoy it. I've got some lavender blooming in the middle here. Look at that, it looks so fresh. I've got some chamomile that's been going on. Those are not chamomile, those are weeds, so I need to pull that. But chamomile, I need to sow some calendula in here, actually. That's a good reminder to me. I've got some lemon balm. I cut it back really hard earlier this spring because it had gotten damaged by the late frost. And then we have lady's mantle, and the sage is blooming, as is the thyme over there. And they're all looking beautiful. Sage is a member of the salvia family, so sage is salvia basically. So this is related to the ornamental salvias that you'd see, and I have some of those as well. So you can see they're similar flowers. So these do bloom, but it is the culinary or garden sage. In this bed, that huge plant in the middle there is comfrey, and it's just about time for me to cut that back so I can make room for other things. It will just regrow. It's just very prolific. I have some echinacea in here. I need to cut the comfrey back so that can grow a little bit better. You can see it's budding up. I also have feverfew, and it's beautiful. There's two different varieties here. There's on the left, there's the Tetra White, which is kind of fluffy, and then the other one is just the original feverfew. And that is just, it's like a tiny daisy. It's so cute. And I use these, you can use them medicinally. I haven't. I don't have an experience with that, but they're great for cut flower arrangements, which is what I use them for. Beyond them, I have a hyssop. This is Hyssop officinalis here, and it's just starting to bloom. There, it's got these spiky purple blooms. And beyond that is an anise hyssop or an agastaki, which will get different looking purple spikes. It's really tall this year. I think these are really loving their spots, so that's great. Before I move on from this area, I did want to show you my corn. I'm pretty proud of it. This is my second year trying sweet corn, but not my second consecutive year. The last couple years I have grown popcorn because I grew sweet corn, I think 3 years ago now, and it didn't go well. But it's growing really nicely so far. I probably should thin it. It's just really hard to do. But yeah, I've got my little clump of sweet corn growing here, and I'm pretty excited about it. I did plant some chocolate runner beans in some holes along the edges, so hopefully those will germinate soon, and the idea is that those would run up the corn. And I do still have some plants there that need to get in the ground, so we're working on it. I'm actually going to come back here to around where we started. This is my pumpkin bed, and I have random branches there that need to be moved out because I don't think I'm using them in here, but should put that on the to-do list. Most of my pumpkins have now germinated and are coming up. I did direct sow some in the last couple days in the spots where there's nothing there. So hopefully those will be up soon and we'll have pumpkins in all the different places. I put in several varieties here. I think Winter Luxury, which is a pie pumpkin that I've really enjoyed, is the only one that has its own row. And then all these other rows, there's two different varieties, two of each. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but so that'll be a better video for when they're growing a little bit more and I could talk about the different varieties. But I'm really excited about my pumpkin patch. This will look crazy in a couple months. Over here, I have a bunch of flowers. So those are some Ami Dara that are actually budding up. Looks like they're about to bloom, which is really exciting. Those went in a while ago. And then all of these here are new. So I started with some phlox, and then there is a long row of zinnias, all different varieties in there. I did try to put them in some sort of pattern that I thought would be pleasing. This is a cherry caramel phlox that I absolutely love, so I put a bunch of those in there. And then this is an Art Shades phlox. And much like most of my flowers at this point, they've been in just like little plug trays and they're just not happy. So we'll give them some time and hopefully they'll perk up. But they are blooming. Look how pretty that is. This mess of weeds back here is actually my asparagus bed. I did get the thistle out last fall. I haven't cleaned it out yet. Just so much planting to do, so it hasn't been at the top of the priority list, but hopefully I will get to it soon. Back on this side I have my stock. This is flowering stock. In the last tour, it was just starting to flower, and I did cut a few small ones, and those plants are bushing out, so that's great. I did lose some to, I'm assuming, a rodent that looked like they were like cut off. And then they didn't even eat the rest of it. They just kind of like cut the stem in half. Actually, it's possible that was bugs too. So that happened. I did replant them, and the ones I replanted are not looking great. We're gonna give them a little time and see if they bounce back. But yeah, they're not looking super great right now. That's okay. You win some, you lose some. Back here is one of my big problem areas. So my original plan was to plant sweet potatoes back here, as well as sunflowers. And I'm still gonna do the sunflowers. My sweet potato slips I didn't grow well, and I didn't buy any, so we're just gonna forego the sweet potatoes this year. We'll try again next year. It's just so weedy. I need to get it weeded and then prep it so that I can get sunflowers back here. And then there's a few other things, like there's some extra peppers that didn't make it into the bed, and some things like that I'll put back here as well. Maybe some other flowers. But let's look at my raised beds back here. Now, that is just gorgeous. We gotta check that out. These are my anemones and ranunculus, and they are beautiful. I planted these out earlier this spring from corms that we pre-sprouted, and I can share that video here. And yeah, they've been blooming for a week, maybe 2. They are just absolutely gorgeous. The anemones started before the ranunculus. This is the ranunculus over here, and they are one of my favorite flowers. They're just, I mean, they're gorgeous, but also they're really fun to say. Ranunculus. Ranunculus, ranunculus. I think these pinks and purples are my favorite. If we have time, we might pick some of these. I do have another comfrey that seeded itself there, and I have had to cut it back a little bit because I think it affected my poor ranunculus over there, which are not growing as well. Sad, but I cut it back, and maybe they'll spring back. So I'm gonna cut the whole thing back soon. It's kind of just in the way. Let me move you over to the bed next to me before we move on. So the intent was for this to be a ground cherry bed, and there are a lot of ground cherries in here. There's 8 plants, and they are actually starting to make little ground cherries. There we go. Excellent. I don't think any of them are ripe yet, but they're growing, so that's good. I did put some basil on this side here, and then there were some alliums still coming up from what I planted a couple falls ago, and they hadn't bloomed yet, so I left them. So those are there. I planted some marigolds at their base so that when I cut the alliums back, something is there. And then over on this side, I stuck some peppers here because, again, I was running out of room for them in their bed. This raised bed on the left has obviously peas in the middle growing on a trellis I made. They are beautiful. Look at that bloom. Oh my goodness. And these are sugar snap magnolia peas for eating. Usually they're garden snacks, but sometimes I think I grew enough this year that we might actually get some inside for snacks as well. And then I sowed, I think, some marigolds in the corner. I'm not sure if those are coming up yet. And then where you see these bare spots, I did direct sow some zucchini, I think Cocoselle variety. If you are in other parts of the world, you may know them as courgettes. That confused me for a while. I didn't know what courgettes were. We call them zucchini. And yeah, they're probably too close together, and I may regret this, but that's okay. They hadn't come up after about a week or 2. I don't even know. I did just direct sow some more a couple days ago, so hopefully we'll see some action in the next week. This bed is my eggplants and peppers. So on the left side here, there are eggplants, and then the other shrubby plants you see are peppers. They're actually looking a little sad. I think the next time I need to water, I'm going to use some fish emulsion, because I think they could just use that boost. I put a bunch of herbs and flowers, mainly herby flowers, in here as well with them to do a mixed bed. I'm pretty excited about it. I got a basil here. I think that might be the Greek dwarf. I've got some nasturtium here. I'm hoping those will spill over the end. There's chamomile, there's marigolds, there's some calendula seeds coming up. At the end, there's some kale. So, exciting times. If they need it, I can put sticks in for support by the peppers and eggplant, and I might do that soon, but the past couple years, they haven't needed it. My brassica bed. This is another one where the weeds are getting away from me a little bit. I did do a little bit of work yesterday, but just like 5 minutes. So that needs some attention, but they are growing beautifully. I have kohlrabi and then cabbage and then broccoli and then Brussels sprouts. I actually did my first broccoli harvest this past week. I just got a couple heads, roasted them for dinner. They were delicious. Everything's growing really nicely. I'm really happy with it. These smaller ones here are actually just ones that got nipped pretty hard by the frost. They almost completely died back. And look how fantastic they look. I didn't replace them or anything. They're doing beautifully. Very excited. The bed beyond, I have some sunflowers there. Those are pro-cut sunflowers. I'm trying to succession sow, and I meant to do it every week or two, but it's really been kind of a month. I did just seed the second succession about a month later than the first, so it's fine. I have some lettuce there. I actually harvested some for meals this week too, and it looks like some of that's gonna bolt. I might be able to get one more head, but I wanted to wait until we could use it. So it looks like I have a volunteer cosmos in there too. And then here I just recently pulled out all the stems of the tulips and I planted in some pumpkins, some little tiny pumpkins, the like decorative tiny ones, Baby Boo and Jack Be Little. So there should be decorative white and decorative orange pumpkins growing in there. I did just leave the tulip bulbs in there this spring. Things that I had put in 2 falls ago came up. I thought I had gotten them all, and it was a wonderful surprise, so I'm just going to see what happens if I leave them. I may change my mind in the fall and move them. We'll see, but for right now, that's my plan. I have so much other stuff I need to plant right now that I don't really have the time to move them, so I think they'll just be fine underneath there. Yeah, they'll be fine. My elder tree is just finishing up its flowers, and then those will turn into elderberries. So this is where elderberries come from. This is a very happy giant elder shrub. Turn into berries. I didn't harvest many flowers this year because I harvested a lot last year. This bed here, again, I have some more sugar snap peas. These are supposed to be a purple variety, and here it looks like they are purple, but the other side actually, there's some that aren't. And they have way outgrown the little trellises I gave them, so hopefully they'll be okay there. I sowed some cucumbers in the bottom. I'm trying to just grow them kind of trailing instead of climbing here to see how that works. I did, I mentioned earlier, planted some by the bean structure so that I can try having them climb there in case this experiment doesn't work, but I do have some coming up. I did direct sow some more in the spots that didn't come up. That is a sunflower back there. I had a lot of volunteer sunflowers in a raised bed that I had to clean out to put my peppers and eggplants in, and so I tried to transplant some, and it looks like they've took. I wasn't sure at first. That's kind of exciting. See, that one back there isn't purple. It actually looks perfect picking, so I'll probably just pick that and eat that now. I put strawberries in a pot that I found in this bed. I put them there temporarily, but they're doing so great. I'm actually going to have to figure out what to do with the runners. I might actually pop these into the rose circle where I have my other strawberries at some point, but I'm gonna let them finish fruiting first. I have been eating fruits out of here, and so have some other critters, so. Oh, what's that down there? I found one. I got myself a little pea and strawberry morning snack. That's exciting. I hope you enjoyed this tour. We are not to where I fully envisioned it being yet this year, but hopefully we'll get there soon. I'm sure I'll mention this in some other videos, but we have a big event coming up, a big birthday party where we're gonna have lots of people over at the end of July. So I'm gonna be working to get everything looking as good as it can. It's gonna be like an outdoor under a tent party. So yeah, where people are gonna be seeing the gardens and I want them to look as good as possible. I'm also, if you're new here and you don't know, I am a mom of 4. My oldest is 10 and my youngest is 2. And so I'm pretty busy. And I do this all myself and don't have like a lot of equipment or anything. So yes, it is a lot of work. Yes, I love it. It is what I spend like all of my free time doing. And I just love that I can share it with you. So thank you for letting me share my potager with you this morning. Now that I'm done filming, it can rain. Hopefully we'll get some good rain today, and I will do some indoor tasks. Until next time, friends, happy gardening.